Director of the Regional Bureau of Asia and the Pacific, to complement the ambassador's presentation with a 2-minute intervention. Querida Kani, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Ambassador. I'm going to just give you a quick snapshot of 5 things we learned as UNDP. But to start by saying that my family and I were living in and working in Vietnam with UNDP in Vietnam during SARS. And I saw how this country learned, and Vietnam never forgets. And I would posit that they were COVID ready because of the learning from how they managed through SARS and how we all managed through SARS. So the 5 quick things. The first thing is the country at the center believed that local economic recovery was a must, that people have to live and work through the pandemic and will manage through their own resources and resilience if supported to do so. So over and above a very strong health response was a local economic recovery response, and markets started to move fast again. I would say here that the incentives that were provided for local markets to thrive again is something we should all consider, that in any crisis, this should be part of a go-to response as part of not just immediate recovery, but this is where people are looking for the UN to come together right away. Second, it was quite something that right from the get-go, there was a priority to the vulnerable. And I know a lot of countries did this. Social protection packages, you couldn't sustain it at a high level for too long, but something again that Vietnam did, which was a post-COVID promise, is never to forget the people left behind again, because COVID made them seen. And that, I think, is a critical part now of a lot of the surveys and the pickup of the data of who is where and what they need. A third big issue was that there was a call on UNDP, and we did this together with ILO, UNICEF, UNFPA, is to fast digitalize public services. There was no way the old way of moving on public services could get to the scale and reach that was needed when you were affected by such, not just a national pandemic, a global crisis. And we found that this measure was not just about increasing access. It actually gave people identity, and it gave people dignity and hope. And that, I think, this huge, scalable digitalization transformed the country's public service. The fourth issue was, Vietnam never lets you stay still for too long, and said, we've got to go faster and accelerate the greening of our economies. And that link wasn't very obvious at the beginning. But then you saw how quickly local resilience was built because circularity in economies started to come through. Waste management, mangrove regeneration, all of these things that were creating new jobs. So I want to preempt a question by our board president, who would say in situations like this, did disposable income increase? And the clear answer in Vietnam and from Vietnam is yes, it did. The fifth and last one for me is that how the focus now and the demand on UNDP is to step up in areas of climate mitigation and adaptation, in accelerating an energy transition, and really moving very fast on what is a joint growing ecological and economic value proposition. And so all I can say from where I sit is thank you, Vietnam.